just keeps going up. Anyway, today I'm going to show you how to dial in a Van Halen-esque type of tone. Now, obviously, my approach to tones is, fairly different, quite different to the old EVH stuff, but he had amazing feel and amazing kind of characteristics in his tone, and I think we can create something pretty damn similar with the McRocklin Suite. So today, it's a live video. There's no cuts, there's no edits. It's just me and you and a little switcher. Hello. And we're going to dial it in together. I'm going to start from the default preset and we're going to just go for it. I haven't thought about it, so I'm going to use my ears and knowledge of the plugin to see what kind of EVH inspired tone we can come up with. I've also just restrung this Kiesel Aries about 5 minutes ago, so expect some tuning stability issues perhaps as I lay into the strings, but I do like this guitar a lot. Very, very cool. All right, let's jump in. And by the way, that preset that I was just using, it's a preset that you're going to be getting real soon. It's called Lift. Let me adjust that camera a little bit. Yeah, it's a really, really nice preset. It's very spongy. It's kind of almost like the clean version, actually. But you're going to get that real soon on the next update. It's lovely. But today, we're going to start with a default preset, and I'm just going to make sure that this is completely as per your default preset. So before we jump in, I am actually going to just have a little quick tune-up. For me, when I'm tuning strings, I always like to go to the flat strings first. But right now, this is not ideal because all the strings are slightly sharp, just a little bit, not too much. So what we're going to do first is we're going to strip away the effects from this default preset, the reverbs, the delays, and the wide. And then we're going to choose a cab. I think that's a good starting point because a lot of the cabs have certain characteristics. And there's something else that I think that I remember from EVH's sound or Eddie's sound. So the first thing we're going to do, turn off wide, turn off delays and reverbs. Now we will come back to those a little bit later. Now, for me, that is obviously quite a modern sound still. It's tight and it's a little bit more aggressive almost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the cab. I'm going to go E3. I think that might have the characteristic. And then I'm going to pull back the presence and the treble because I feel like Eddie's sound wasn't really bright from the speakers and the amp. I almost feel like that was added in mix or post-production. This is what I'm thinking when I hear those early tracks, and this is just from what I remember. I'm not sitting here with Spotify on the left and my tone on the right. We're just going for Eddie-inspired tones. So I like how that's already just dulled it down a lot. We've taken a lot of that top end out of the sound, okay? But we're going to add that back in a big way in just a moment. So for me, I don't think, going for like an attacker with RIFFER, I don't think that's the way that I would approach it. I think I'm going to use some of the power from Heatpressor to really get us pushed into a more classic sound. So I'm going to crank that warmth up, which adds a top end saturation. I'm going to use a lot of boost. I'm even going to compress a little bit because this compressor is very, very transparent. But remember, the more compression we use, we need some extra gain to make up the volume difference. So for example, if I go from no compression to loads of compression, what happened? Well, the sound dropped a lot down in volume, right? And that's why we need to make up level. And that's also why we have 48 dBs. Now that's a lot, but hey, it's good to have options, right? So I'm going to crank that compression about halfway and going to give some level. Now, obviously, so far, this is not at all sounding like Eddie's sound, but that's okay. I'm going to give it a little bit more gate. What I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to think about his top end, and I think it was quite bright, so I'm going to introduce a lot of air. engage that tight switch as well. I like that right away. Okay. So I'm going to use a bit more air, a lot more than what I would normally use, but I'm also going to shape it back a little bit with some high cut. Yeah, that's starting to feel a little bit more spongy. I'm going to take a little bit more out of that treble, I think. And then I'm going to go to the EQ. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bass frequency to add in some lower mids into the sound. And I'm going to add some real higher frequencies as well. I might even brighten it up. Maybe the bright's just a little bit too much. But one thing I can feel right away when I'm playing right now is, because we're using a lot of boost and that warmth, I'm starting to feel like that amp in a room type of feeling where it's easy to play. It's like, it's got this excitement. And it's kind of cool because we're not using any drives to get this much gain. We're using the boost from Heatpressor with the warmth and level. So I think that's, that's not too bad there. I think a little bit more shaping on the EQ. Now, when you're chugging and riffing, if it starts to feel just a little bit muddy or a bit mushy, that's a good sign that there's either too much gain going into the channel or it needs something to just bring it back up. Now, I'm going to show you a nice tip here. So what you can do is you can use Attacker, and what I want you to do is I want you to take all the drive out of Attacker, and I want you to get the level kind of matched. So when we turn it on and off, it's not really doing anything. If I had level and drive, when I turn it on and off, you hear that, right? So we want to get it to the point where it's basically doing nothing. Yeah, because what we can do is we can now just use this Attacker just to give a little bit more cut on the front end. So if you have some really old passive pickups and they're just not cutting through in the way that you want it to, and using the tight switch on the front end, that's not getting the job done, well, by using Attacker really, really gentle like this, oh, right away, we're in a different territory now. So now I can play with a little bit more gain because it's not going to get muddy and mushy because Attacker's doing the job of kind of shaping it. So that's not too bad. I feel like a little bit more shaping on that mid-range is going to be required in a second. But I want to move on to a little bit of space and a little bit of ambience. And what I'll do is I'll turn the volume down and I'll turn up the compression, because Van Halen had this very, very lively type of sound. The ambience, even though often it was on one side and the guitar was on the other, it still felt like it had this explosion, it was so powerful and, it was amazing, wasn't it, really? So let's think about that. Adding some compression after the reverb is going to be really cool. But also, I think these two reverbs here are much too modern for the EVH type of sound. So I'm going to use sharp, and I want it to be very bright. Let's turn that on. And I want it to be very thin. That's kind of where we want it to be. So we we definitely need to play around with that bass end a little bit more. I want to push some of those in. Maybe we've gone too far with that brightness. That's definitely getting there. Bit too much reverb, so I'm going to dial that back. And I'm going to introduce a little bit of, I was going to say reverb again, but no, it's echo. And I don't want any spread. I don't want, like this. That's too wide, it's too modern. We just want a stereo echo, no spread, maybe quite a lot of cut, so it kind of disappears. I don't want that many repeats. I don't really want any ducking, because that's a very modern thing. And I want less in the mix. Yeah, kind of like that. Much more subtle. Okay, I definitely can't do that. We need someone like Cami B to come on and play the actual EVH stuff. But that's starting to feel like that type of sound, and I really, really like this so far. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more gain in the amp. I just want to feel like it's got a lot of bite up high. Okay, I feel like that reverb also should be a little bit thinner. Yes. So like this, too thick. We want really thin reverbs. So it just gets out of the way. Bit more pre-delay. Yes. And then let's just finally work on the... Okay, I'm not going to go there. I said I'm not going to go there. But really... maybe a bit more brightness. Pinched harmonic game, fail. Oh yeah, that's starting to feel like it's got those vibes. And like I said, we're not trying to make the exact EVH sound, and we don't profile and model and kind of capture sounds in that way. We build everything up from the ground up. So we're gonna naturally have all these components dialed into what I think is my type of modern sounds. But with that, I think we're onto a bit of a winner there. Maybe we add a bit of wide, you know? Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We should make this preset obviously available to you guys. So polychromedsp.com/discord. I'm going to save it right now so we don't forget. And let's save it as EVH-ish, okay? So McRocklin Suite, Factory, Riffs and Shred, EVH-ish, okay? Because, you know, it's ish, okay? It's not right there, but I feel... Tuning is way out now because the strings are just fresh. This is probably a good workout for them to get them nicely stretched in. Let's get that gate dialed in a little bit more. When I set my gate, this is a good opportunity to think about this actually. I set it with the guitar volume on, like that, and I just dial it back till we get that, and then it's always going to be a balancing act, right? Because if you have too much a gate where it's like, okay, that's perfect, it's never going to interrupt us until we start playing, but then when we stop playing or we go really low, it cuts us off, you know? So I like to have it set where it's kind of like we have to have some control with the volume and ourselves as we play. So right there, we're at about 50% gate. It means when I'm sending any signals into the software, it's triggering it. And I like that though, because I'm in control, because I use my volume pot then to get us into the safety zone of no volume. Yeah? So there, you know, if you're sitting in front of your computer, you're going to trigger it. But I like that because I'm in control. So just real quick, if I quickly tune up, and I'll show you how I would play using that type of approach for the gate. Very rough, very quick tune here. So I'm going to play in B minor. So when I slide away, I've got this habit of always pulling the volume down. But that way, when I am playing, I have enough dynamics available because the gate's not getting too choppy that I can play real low with a split. And I'm not expecting the gate to save me every time. I think a lot of people, they look at the gate as like this miracle thing. It's going to make me 10 years into my playing progression. It's going to fix everything. But a gate, you have to work with it. You know, if you have the gate too much, then you're not going to have as much dynamics. And if you have too little gate, you're going to have that. So I think, you know, right there, it's 42% now, 42%. It means if I trigger it, it's very, very easy to trigger it. But if I'm playing, because I've built these mechanisms into my playing, that's really going to work with the gate. And then if you're getting that, the little chatter, that's a little bit of a sign that we don't have quite enough gate. So I think where we had it before was probably perfect, around about 50%, and I'll save it like that. And when you're working with your guitar tones and your gates, and you know, you're thinking, do I have enough gate, or there's extra noise coming in? Is it, you know, think about, is it the input? Am I too near gear? Because, you know, there's so many things that can cause crazy amounts of interference and triggering, and it's like, oh, this gate, it's just, I need more gates. And then next thing you know, you've got like, I don't know, a Boss gate, a Dunlop gate, a software gate, and you're thinking it's just all in the gates, where it's like, it's a combination of everything. So just like gain staging, think about gates in the same way. Anyway, we've gone off topic a little bit. Thank you so much for joining us today on this live EVH-ish type of preset. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I will see you real soon. Let's end this sucker. All right, cheers guys, bye.